Let us all do we can to build a better future. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, apparently force to vote works, and the progressives are starting to kind of speak out, but don't worry, this is a big nothing burger.
So let me guess, you're about to go into a story of progressives actually standing by their principles, using their rather sizable voting base to force Democrats to act in a direction that helps all of us. So that's what I'm assuming we're going to hear?
No.
Oh.
So hold on.
More of the same.
Hold on. First, let's actually pull up this first image. There's a tweet to that attached. I would like to first read the tweet, though. This is from a good friend of the show, Jimmy Dore. That's right.
A lot to read.
Now, hold on. This is just it. And I wish I could do his laugh, but it wouldn't do him justice. But everyone just close your eyes and imagine Jimmy Dore laughing real quick. Hashtag force to vote. Now, why is this important? Why is this important? Because, again, the tweet below was shared on June 19th. Face, can we kindly please play that video for all the people so they can hear it? So, again, everyone, pay very close attention because they're going to share an important fact about force to vote and what it means. And, gee, how the progressives really crapped the bed when we could have used the force to vote for Medicare for all. Let's play that video.
So where does this voting rights bill go from here? Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is going to force a vote on Tuesday for this voting rights package that's a Democratic priority in this Congress. But it's expected to fail because it doesn't have enough Republican support. So why would Chuck Schumer do this and force a vote on a legislation that's going to fail? Well, it's to send a message and put Republicans and Democrats on the record on this issue of voting rights. Diaz is
okay, now let's pause it.
But I've been told by progressive that's a really, and a lot of people in independent media, that's a really stupid idea, and only idiots would use it.
Quote-unquote independent media. Because remember, Cenk Uygur was saying, everyone, we got to keep our powder dry. I don't know. That's not even powder. Why? We got to keep our powder dry. Keep the powder dry. Keep the powder dry. And that's what they were saying. That's what they were saying throughout the entire time when Jimmy Dore and Breonna Joy Gray and Cornel West and Justin Jackson and so many others, heroic individuals, were doing the force to vote for Medicare for all. And the whole idea is, look, let's say in a hypothetical scenario,
yeah,
right, those 15 congressmen and women who ran on Medicare for all for force to vote, let's say they were successful in maybe not voting for Nancy Pelosi, or either not putting enough pressure for Nancy Pelosi to actually put Medicare for all on the House floor for a vote.
Yeah.
Would it have succeeded? There is a very good chance it would have failed too. Now, that's not the end of the movement like Pramila Jayapal said, because no, it's not. What it would have done was put our Republican and Democratic lawmakers in the House, put a spotlight on them and show just exactly how heartless they are not to give us Medicare for all, single-payer health care at the height of the pandemic. It would have also given progressives, especially those within the Democratic Party, or here, let me make a quick correction, quote-unquote progressives in the Democratic Party.
Wait. Put the camera on me real quick. It's not even that. It's progressives in the Democratic Party.
Right. Daniel, well done. Well done indeed. It would have, again, that would have been used as political ammunition going into 2022 to vote out centrist Democrats and also kick out conservative Republicans in the House. And so the thing, it would have been a win-win.
Very, very simple logic that people are just intentionally not getting. It's you force a vote, doesn't have to succeed. If either way, there's something you get out of it. If it succeeds, you have a bill that's now been passed in the House. The Senate gets the same deal. President gets the same deal. I'd love to see Joe Biden veto one of those bills. I really would. And then you have it not succeeding, but then you have a record of everyone who's voted on it. And so then, I don't know, if you're a progressive and you're trying to expand the amount of people that you have in office, well, having an entire campaign that you're running against someone saying he refused on record to give you health care might be a good way to get into the Democratic Party by beating these people in primaries. But, you know, why do that? Because, well, if some comedian somewhere on the internet said it, you shouldn't do it, even though other people have said it before that. I mean, who cares?
So the thing is, now we're seeing Senator Chuck Schumer use his own force to vote. And the thing is, turns out, not a big panic. I guess when the correct Democrats or the correct people are talking about forced to vote, it works in their mind. But the sad fact is that forced to vote, no matter what, whether it's forced to vote for Medicare for all or Cenk Uyghur's epic failure of forced to vote for 15, save us, Kamala, save us, Kamala. No matter what, the forced to vote was needed, and it can work. Now, hold on, folks, because we got to talk about Morning Joe. Let's hear what he's talking about in regards to progressives now, I guess, speaking up or speaking out. I guess maybe finally the progressives in the Democratic Party in the Senate and House have finally realized that, oh, wait, they could do the same things that Joe Manchin is doing. Theoretically. Hold on. Let's play this clip. Again, shout out to Case Study QB. Be sure to follow him on Twitter. He's doing a lot of great things. And also check out his YouTube channel and on Odyssey as well. Play that video.
It's something we talked to AOC about last Thursday when she was on the show. I have been really struck by how Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, AOC, some of the other leaders on the progressive side have really sat back. Of course, you have people on the right always trying to say they're crazy, they're out of their mind, they're irrational. Right. Throughout this entire process, they've sat back, they have allowed the conversation to rotate around Joe Manchin and the more conservative members of the Democratic Party, and have really held their ground, have remained quiet for the most part. But Bernie Sanders is now speaking.
Can I just throw out there that if Morning Joe says you're not doing anything in Congress, you've really screwed up.
Well, no, Dan, we played that clip on Friday's show, and AOC said thank you.
Yeah, well, she didn't get that he was digging. It's just,
yeah.
It's again, if Morning Joe and Mika are like, yeah, you guys aren't doing anything as progressives, or you've really failed. The right thing that you want them to say is, you guys need to slow down. That's the right response.
Or either that, maybe they could just said the quiet part loud. Hey, you guys aren't being as antagonistic as we thought you'd be.
Yeah.
Like, what the heck? There's rules in this. We're supposed to sharpen our claws and fence, and you guys aren't doing nothing. Come on.
No, they're the fence post.
I know, exactly.
They're being sharpened against.
Yeah, see, there we go. All right, let's play the rest of that video.
Bernie Sanders is now speaking out, and some others are speaking out, and of course, that's just how Washington works. It's how it should work. You have this back and forth, and you want to make sure, if you're a progressive, and obviously that's where the energetic part of the Democratic Party is, to make sure that your progressive base knows that there's somebody there fighting for you. So you got Bernie now saying, okay, great, we're talking about Manchin nonstop, but hey, we're over here as well. And that, when you start hearing that, you're starting to think, okay, maybe this thing is moving further towards a negotiated settlement where both sides are going to want to make sure that their voices are heard in that final mix. And, we may be a couple of weeks away from it. Who knows? Maybe a couple months away from it. But it does seem to be going in that direction.
Okay. All right. So that video's done. Let's go ahead and pause it real quick before we pull up the next video. The fact that, again, to Daniel's point, that Morning Joe has to basically remind the progressives in the Senate and House that, hey, you guys can do things too, or wow, finally you're now speaking out. It's almost too little too late. Now, we have gotten a lot of pushback on this show from a lot of people saying all you do is talk crap about progressives when they need your support. You talk crap about the Democrats. But the thing is, the Democratic Party has done this to themselves. We know how crappy the Republican Party is. And I want to be very clear. There's a big difference between the Republican Party, Democratic Party, and then the voters, okay? So let's focus on the establishment. The Democratic Party has run on this whole mindset that, oh, yeah, we might suck, but the other team sucks worse. That's not how you gain confidence. That's not how you build strong coalitions. That's not how you build a political movement. You got to show that you're going to be just as aggressive. And, yeah, the consequences of being aggressive and challenging the two-party system, even those within your own party, you're going to be ostracized. You're not going to be invited at the table. But that's the whole point. You're supposed to inspire more people to run for office and also show the centrist Democrats and the neoconservative Republicans in the two parties that you have a big political movement right behind you. Again, a lot of these politicians, especially these progressive politicians, have a large social media following. They have the ability to build a coalition. They have the ability to do their own online town halls or in-person events as the country is returning back to its normal or neoliberal normal. But this is inexcusable right now to where, again, the progressives are speaking out too little too late. And I really am kind of curious to see what kind of narrative they're going to run on for 2022. Let's be very clear about this. The progressive Democrats and centrist Democrats have not followed through with any of their campaign promises during the 2020 election. This is a fact. And the thing is, I don't like punching down on the progressives, especially those that have won their seats in the House and Senate. I wish I was not in this scenario. But the sad fact is, Bernie and the other high-profile progressive leadership that we're seeing, they're not following through. They are not following through. They didn't follow through for forced to vote for Medicare for all. And let's talk about a safe one, the forced to vote for 15. That was a slam dunk. They could have used their power. But instead, Manchin and Sinema, Senator Manchin and Senator Sinema, have been dictating terms for the Democratic Party and Joe Biden's administration, and the progressives have been silent all along. And Joe Biden's administration has not followed through, but yet we have progressives in the House saying that, oh, Biden has exceeded expectations, or Bernie Sanders talking good things about his good friend, Joe Biden. That was his friend. That's what he said during the entire primary, that Joe Biden was his friend. I wish that I didn't have to say this, but this is the problem that we're seeing with our progressives right now in the House and Senate. They are not taking the initiative. So the only last hope right now is with the people. But go ahead, Daniel. I know you want to say something.
So even on that, like he was talking about, there's some people. There aren't really that many people yelling at us on that. It's really just like people with like a couple of people on Twitter, which duh. But it's really funny because there are people. Anyone who yells at us for a topic like that just doesn't know anything about us, hasn't done any research, and is probably just some person on Twitter complaining about something rather than doing something. So why am I saying all that? Why am I phrasing it all this way? You look at the first couple of years of Hardlands Media when AOC got in, we were very supportive of her. Bernie Sanders the same way, because I think like a lot of people watching back then, we thought that they were going to do different things that they ended up doing. And so what we support, we actually don't care about individuals as much as we do about policy. We don't hero worship. We just look at the ground game that's happening, trying to call it out the way it is. So when we thought Bernie Sanders was doing very well, we supported him. We thought AOC was there, we supported her. But now that they're not, they're not. The difference is, I think with a lot of people watching, we sort of understand that we're making our choices based off of the existing environment that's around us. AOC doesn't do votes. AOC calls out progressives. AOC takes down media pages. We're going to change our tune on AOC. It's a very simple prospect. And so even with this, again, I'm still stuck on the idea that Morning Joe is making the point that, wow, I'm really surprised all these progressives we expected to be doing segments on how they need to shut up are actually shutting up, and they really need to speak more. If Morning Joe is telling AOC that she's being too quiet, she's failed. If Morning Joe is like, oh, Bernie Sanders is like trying to say something somewhere, Bernie has failed. Morning Joe is the best representation of centrism, at least on MSNBC. Mm-hmm. If Morning Joe is saying that you're too quiet and he's adversarial to you naturally, again, this is the same Morning Joe that was insinuating he would have voted for Trump over Bernie Sanders. If Morning Joe says Bernie Sanders isn't speaking enough, Bernie Sanders has failed. If Morning Joe says AOC isn't speaking with us it's enough, AOC has failed. He goes on the show, they talk, he gives her a backhanded compliment that's really not even a compliment, that she's been really quiet. What does AOC do? Does she go, that's probably not good? No, she happily accepts the compliment.
Yeah, and it's not a compliment. But speaking of Bernie Sanders, let's pull up this next clip. Yeah, everyone, here's Bernie. Shout out again to Case Study QB. Follow him on Twitter, Odyssey, and on his YouTube channel as well. Let's play that video, folks.
You said on Monday that you weren't going to support this bipartisan infrastructure deal as it stands right now. What would it take for you to support this deal, particularly if President Biden starts to sign off on it? What would it take, even if you don't love it?
Well, Chuck, look, what we have got to do in these budgets is address the crises facing the American people. It is true that our roads and our bridges and our water systems and our wastewater plants are crumbling, and we need to invest in them. As I understand it, the so-called bipartisan plan really only provides about 25% of the money that the president asked for, about $580 billion. But the point goes beyond that. The working people of this country understand, Chuck, that for decades we have ignored their needs while the very richest people in this country have become richer. So we have a situation right now where people throughout this country cannot afford childcare. People cannot afford, elderly people cannot afford hearing aids or dental care. We have a disaster in terms of climate impacting this country right now. How do you go forward right now in this moment in history and not address the terrible climate crisis that we face and transform our energy system? How do you not deal with housing when 18 million families are spending 50% or more of their limited incomes on housing? And the list goes on and on. Rich get richer. Working people are struggling. It is time we paid attention to the needs of working people. And when we do that, when we deal with climate, when we deal with infrastructure, when we deal with home health care, when we deal with child care, we can create millions of good paying jobs. That is what the American people want. That's what we've got to do.
Are you comfortable with a two-step process where you noted this is the 25% about of what President Biden asked?
Okay. So hold on, because there's a second video to bring up, but it's more of the same. But I want to give you the final word on this one. But first, I think Lawrence Johnson in the live stream chat just worded it perfectly. Watch him dodge the question, and he did. And the thing is, everything that Bernie Sanders was saying, I agreed. But that was a dodging of the question. Because the thing is, there's no excuse that Bernie Sanders can't do the same thing that Joe Manchin is doing. He could be just as adversarial as Joe Manchin. He has the ability to raise an army, to have a social media presence, and to actually do online town halls, and to actually get people out there to push forward the progressive movement. But we're seeing none of it. So when people like Joe Scarborough or Tucker Carlson or anyone in corporate media wants to talk down the progressives, the thing is, there's really nothing I can really say to defend the current progressives in the House and Senate. And let's say a Trump supporter were to say, well, Bernie's weak. I mean, the thing is, I got to say, well, yeah. I mean, I'm not seeing the fight that I saw in 2016. I didn't see the fight in 2020. And what I'm seeing now, again, he's saying things I agree with. So occasionally I'll like a tweet from Bernie, but they're feel-good tweets, but I won't retweet it. And it's just, I want to see actions, not words. Deeds, not statements. Daniel, what's the final word?
Yeah, so I was actually going to, what was Lawrence Johnson wrote that?
Yeah.
That was exactly the point I was going to make, is that he was asked a question of Bernie, what are you going to do in this situation? He didn't answer it because Bernie doesn't do a lot in these situations anymore. Whether it was his heart surgery, whether it was losses in his family, or just threats from people in power, or just feeling that he couldn't do anything, or just getting old. The Bernie that I remember meeting in person in 2016 doesn't seem to be there anymore. He's not home. All he's really done is just he said his stump speech enough that he's remembered parts of it, and he'll just shoot back parts of his stump speech as answers to questions that he fully doesn't answer anyway. Joe Manchin is a one senator who is changing the math. Bernie Sanders doesn't even want to attempt to do something. Bernie Sanders will eventually go along with whatever the Democrats do. And it's a shame, but when he can't even properly answer a question from Chuck Todd, what's he going to do to anyone else? Look, I don't like that, and the thing is, what I saw sounds defeatist, and it's, again, Lawrence Johnson, shout out to him. That is true. He dodged the question. You could check out all our story show notes in the description box below.